Audio on. All right. Hello. Hi, peoples.
Hi.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, JDs and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, and all you who rule.
Last time I had a stinky fingy. Now I have a bloody toe, but you have to pay to see it.
I don't know if you will pay to see her bloody toe, but if you will, she's accepting the donations. Put him in the chat.
Yep,
Anyways.
I'm going to use it on a pedicure. So,
As per usual, I'm Jeff, your Twitchlit Torchmaster, your Torchlit Twitchmaster, and I'm here to talk your ears off, but just not. We're not gonna have any dice. No dice. That's what this show is about. No dice. We just talk about rolling dice and what that means. And joining me, as always, is my lovely co-host Katie Mischief.
the perpetually afflicted.
Katie Mischief, the perpetually afflicted. That's right. That's right. Anyways, that's enough being weird for me today. Just kidding. There'll be more. Uh, as always, thank you for joining me tonight. If you haven't read the thing, which if you haven't, like, thank you for just tuning in and not reading the title of it. Tonight we're gonna talk about BESM. Why?
Big eyes, small mouth.
That's right. Big eyes, small mouth. Why is that? Well, because we're just learning about it, and part of the thing that we do here is talk about the things in tabletop that matter to us, and right now this is something that matters to us. And as as you may already know, the tabletop world is a little weird right now, so maybe you're looking for an alternative. And if that's the case, shoot, son, I might be here to help you. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Let me know if I get any toe donations. Just
yeah, I'll let you know if anybody
just
wishes
keep
to
an
donate.
eye peeled for toe donations cuz I'm not here to lie. All right.
It's true. She ain't here to lie. I will look. I will let you know if we get any toe donations.
If you want to be private about it, ma'am or sir, or anything in between, I will DM them to you. If that makes you more comfortable.
I'm sure that is something our lovely viewers do enjoy. DM'd toes, bloody
Me like
toes.
feet.
Me like feet. Um. Well, anywho's, thank you for joining us. As I said, we are going to be discussing Big Eye Small Mouth, and for those of you who don't know what BESM is, Big Eye Small Mouth, the shortest uh, the shortest explanation I can give you is it is the halfway point between an anime and a tabletop role playing game. It's the best way for you to combine the two if that's something you wish to do. If you want to make your Dragon Ball Z TTRPG, well, you probably all you need is Big Eyes Small Mouth, and you can just go from there. The world's already built, so just figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Um, and that's the great thing about this system. This system is not extremely lore heavy as far as the stuff that I've read. It is a system where you can build in it and play in it, but you don't have to worry about the world that exists in it. Now, for some people, that could be daunting.
I see, and I could understand that, but you also have to look at it from the perspective of a lot of us nerds watch anime. You can just pull from your favorite anime,
Absolutely.
and there's your setting. And there's a lot of
Absolutely.
people that do role playing on Discord. You know, not exactly tabletop role playing, but tabletop role playing adjacent, where you role play as your favorite characters or role play different scenarios of TV shows or dramas that you like. And that could also marry the two.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hilariously, if you get the fourth edition of BESM, it will go over all this stuff for you. The first two, in the introduction, it talks about anime, manga, the evolution of anime, role playing games, RPGs, tabletop role playing games, and the history, a brief history of BESM itself, which uh, it's been around in as long as Katie has.
I'm 25, if that helps put it into perspective.
That does help put it into perspective. That's right.
Yeah.
It too was born in 1997, which is
So
pretty
there you
young.
go. There you go. Unless you were wondering, hey, are you 19 or 32? We can't tell. I've gotten that before. I'm 25, right in the middle.
What a weird thing to say to ask somebody. But yes.
I
So,
I have the approachable face.
but
People will ask me just the craziest shit. It's don't stop here. I like the crazy questions. It's something you grow to like. So hit me up.
hit her up with those crazy questions. She'll answer them. So as I said, BESM is that combination between a anime and a tabletop role playing system. There is uh there is books you can buy that will give you some that might give you some settings for it. But the base book just it's just the game, how you play it, as far as I could tell, at least.
Yes,
Um,
we are several chapters in. We haven't fully completed it, but we got so excited about it yesterday, reading about it, that I said there's really only one option for what we should do for No Dice tonight.
Absolutely.
Because we are super excited about it. It was definitely well. Let me just kind of go through how we experienced it yesterday, or how I experienced it yesterday, and how I felt, and then coming away from that, how I feel now that I've gotten 24 hours with this knowledge. We started building characters, and it was daunting. There are no specific races, classes, leveling. That's done away with in this.
Oh,
You
throw
are
that all
given a,
out the window. Yeah.
you are not a dragonborn sorcerer. That's not that does take away some of your um, basic concepts of building a character, right?
Takes away
Uh,
some of the guide rails that you know from character building, right? Even from video games, you're used to this same basic quality of
you can
ideas.
be a human, an orc, or an elf, or a dwarf. Like you can be whatever you want. The way that they set it up is you get your DM or GM will give you a
GM.
point.
Yeah.
Will give you points. Now the points kind of are
Scoot
how
this in a
strong
little.
you are. We started with 70 points, I believe.
Yes,
Uh,
70.
and some world building ideas for concepts of characters, right? Uh, it's a great concept. Do you want to go over the concept, or do you think we should just skip it?
Um,
We didn't come up with the concept. I
we
think
didn't.
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't come up with the concept, and I think that takes away from. I don't think we need to discuss exactly the concept or any of that stuff as far as discussing the game. And
Right.
I think this should be just about discussing the game and what we've seen about it and what we kind of like about it and what maybe you might like about it if you want to try it.
I had a hard time making a character.
Making a
I haven't even finished. Honestly, I barely started making a character. However, that is because I have to read all the options before I buy. I
mm-hmm.
I recently bought glasses off the internet. I went through 3,000 pairs of glasses before selecting. I spent all day on it. That's the kind of person I am. So I have to
All of
fully read through
one
and
day and part of another.
understand. Yeah, and part of another. I have to fully read and understand absolutely what I am going to buy, right? That's how I am. And so point buy always makes me do that as well. I always second guess myself. But the customization options in
Oh
BESM
God.
are unmatched by any other game that I've played.
Any other game at all. Let's start with some of the basics just out the gate. So first off, when you start off a game of BESM, like I said, this doesn't inherently evolve a lot of world. So it is on your GM to build that whole world. Now, as she said, that doesn't mean you can't just build the world around your favorite anime. You could just be like, hey, we're going to play in that one time I was reincarnated as a slime, and everybody here's a fan, so just know the rules. You're going to make a character this strong, you have this many points. And it levels up, and it like uh not levels out. It tells you what each power level of character is worth in points. So, you're starting off, you can start off as low as subhuman, or you could just go all the way top tier and have a godlike character, and it'll tell you how many points you need to give your characters to be that.
Another cool thing that I noticed while building the characters, because our GM has played BESM before, and we none of the players have. Of course, we were immediately concerned with creating good party dynamics. What are you building, and what can I build to complement that? And it was kind of said to us that that doesn't matter. We will all be powerhouses in our own right.
Yes, absolutely. An important thing to think about, which became clear as I too was making a character, is that you're making an anime protagonist. So if you've watched an anime, you know that the protagonist is tough. Even if that's a group of protagonists, they're almost never not able to handle things on their own. And even when they are, say in the beginning, that doesn't last a super long time. And there's no amount of people would have changed that, you know?
I
Uh,
think another crazy thing that I want to kind of go over with character creation that I found wild, something I'm not used to. You have to use your character points to purchase weapons with those points
right. Well, let's get
because they
into
become important parts of your character.
let's get into like more of the basics here before we go. That feels like it's jumping ahead a little. So
Okay.
you get these character points. You get however many your GM says, right? Your GM has built the world. They want you to come in at this level, and that's not the only character points you'll ever get. You will not level. Levels are thrown away. You're not going to be a level 1, level 2, da da. But you will have abilities that will have levels, but you can only acquire these abilities through character points. So as you go, you will get more character points. That'll be your reward for your experience. So, you get these character points. One of the first things you're going to want to spend these character points on, likely, or at least consider spending these character points on, is going to be your stats. Now, in BESM, you have
3 stats:
three basic stats. Your three stats are
body,
body.
mind, and soul.
There it is. Body, mind, and soul. That's all you get. Each of them could be a maximum. Well, is it a max? I think you can only start with a maximum of 12 in any number.
12 is the human limit, and we started with humans. So,
Right. The human limit is 12 in each of those. But each of those also costs your points, right? So your stats, you're going to spend your points on. Each single stat point is worth 2 points. So, like we had 70, we couldn't have even had the toughest humans we could have had. And even if we did, we wouldn't be able to do anything else. Right? We would have just had really tough humans. Stats up to the maximum the best a human could ever be, but no abilities. And as you move forward, you're the first thing you think about is your stats, but then you're moving into your abilities, and your abilities aren't just like, oh, here's my superpowers. Your abilities are every single thing that you can do. Like almost every single thing. Nigh Short of talking and walking, Those are your abilities. So then,
Well, I mean, tying a shoe, the basic things. You're
sure,
a person, right? But abilities are things like I took companion. So I have a companion that's with me all the time.
sure.
Uh you can take things like
You could take things like melee attack. You could take things like ranged attack. You could take things like flight. You could take things like uh
range defense. You want to have a defense of some kind, right? So
absolutely.
you don't innately have defense against anything.
Absolutely. Now, luckily enough, it does if you have like something in mind, the book spends the first decent chunk of time shooting out some templates for you so that you could make something like this thing you're thinking about. Maybe you want to make like a half orc or something like that. Like it will
They
it
even have Android Battle Maid.
maybe you want
Just
to
some
make an
presets.
android battle maid. They'll help. Hey, maybe you want to make a slime even.
Slime is in there.
They will help you. But uh it's all based on these are all just templates, right? Just ideas. Just a way for you to maybe have some idea as to what you're doing. And then even job templates like martial artist or mech pilot or this or mercenary, blah blah blah. They give you all this stuff, but the great thing is you don't need any of that. You can go right past that and throw it all away. Because what you are going to end up using is you're going to use your points, you're going to buy your stats, then you're going to buy attributes, and as I said, almost anything you can do is an attribute. So if you want a weapon, that's what you buy with your points because that weapon is an attribute that you pay for so you could use it. Everything that is your character that makes you do what you do, something you buy with points. So that makes things slightly more concrete. Like, hey, I'm going to have this because it's in my attributes. I bought it. Uh, and also takes the idea of like spending money to a different level with the game because you don't really need the money for these things, but maybe you do, and that'll depend on your GM.
Right.
But it's something you bought with your attribute points. One of the most interesting things, in my opinion, that you come at it with this point buy, and you're first
A
off, it's like
thousand options.
you're just inundated with these options, all these different things you could do, right? All these different possibilities. And if you don't have a concept in mind, it could get overwhelming quickly. So you really want to start off with a concept if possible. And that's something that, again, you and your GM should sort of sit down with. So your GMs could maybe even give you a direction as to where to start, like ours did. But one of the interesting things about it to me is like it is not a static anything, right? So even though you get these attributes and it's point by, you think, all right, well, you spend them out, you're done. Not necessarily, because you can buy multiple levels of something. And then, so you say you took weapons and you have level 2 weapons and you took ranged weapon, you want a level 2 ranged weapon, but you want to put an enhancement on this. An enhancement will then take your back down to a level 1, but there's no cost for the enhancement.
Depending on the enhancement.
No, all enhancements don't have cost.
No, no, no. I meant it'll take you down to level 1. It could
Oh,
take you down
could take you down.
more
Yeah,
depending on the enhancement. But you can also put a thing called limiters on it, which will limit the weapon or ability in some way. Like fly, I believe, has the limiter that you only really hover off the ground.
yeah, it's one of the
You
available
can't
limiters.
go
Yeah,
up into the sky. You fly, but you're just off the ground. And that means you get an extra fly level when you take it. It gives you a more powerful fly because you have this limiter. Or the good example that was used yesterday, you can have super strength. but only in your hands is a limiter. So your hands are now more strong, but it's just your hands.
Absolutely. And while you're looking through these attributes, if you are, which you should be, looking through the book, you'll notice that some of them will even just tell you some of their limiters right out the gate. You know, like armor has the limiter emphasized, where your armor is focused in a particular uncommon attack, focused against a particular uncommon attack form, such as fire, cold, acid, or electricity. It provides a double armor rating against that particular attack form, but only half against other sources of damage. So like that's that's a great little give and take, and helps make your character way more specified than just like, oh, I have armor. Oh, I have armor too. Well, maybe your armor has a limit. Maybe your armor has an enhancement. All that stuff calculates in.
Exactly.
It is a lot of math though. The point by of it is a lot of like,
And figuring out how your body, mind, and soul uh, ends up reflecting into hit points and things like that is multiplication. There is multiplication. There is division. There is.
yeah, there's multiplication, division, adding, and then each one of like I too haven't finished my character because I have all the different little meta numbers to work out too, and things like, oh, what's your attack power? Well, I have this and I have this and I have this, so this will affect it like this, and then I get to multiply it with this. You know, all
A bunch of things.
it can
A
get
bunch of things.
it can get
And
go on.
crunchy. It can get crunchy. And I think another thing that we didn't even touch on is that it's not a D20 system.
It is not. There is D20 versions of it.
Yes, but we're talking about BESM 4th edition. It's not a D20 system. It's a D6 system.
I believe so. Actually, let me double check because I didn't.
It's a regular roll is a 2D6.
Yes. I just didn't read the rules on rolling. I passed by them, and I was like, oh, well, I should probably look at those while we're talking about it. So, an important, as she says, an important note is that when you're getting into other systems, period, you should know that they're not all going to be D20 systems. And even though BESM does make a D20 version, it is not specifically a D20 roll. It starts with a 2D6, and that's it. Then you add, your stats or your skills and all this other stuff, but it's much closer to a Powered by the Apocalypse system, though it's not quite like that. It's somewhere in between. Have you ever played a Powered by the Apocalypse game?
Are you talking to me or the chat?
I'm talking to you.
No, I have not.
So Powered by the Apocalypse, for you and the chat, in case they don't know, is also a 2D6 game, but it's a 2D6 game where the outcomes are set. There's no variance there, as far as how it turns out. You roll 2d6, and if it's like 1 to 5, you failed.
Well, it couldn't possibly be 1. So
You're right. So it's like 2 to 5, maybe even 2 to 6, you failed. And then it's like 6 to 10 is a like a middling success. There's a different word for it. I can't remember it. And then like above 10 is a full success.
11 to 12.
Yeah, you can add modifiers.
Yeah.
But so just above 10, anything above 10 is going to be like a full success. And like that system's great for role playing because nobody has to ever concern themselves with like what's a DC on this or whatever. You know what the DC is. You roll those 2d6, you know what you're going to add to it, and you know what that number is going to mean as soon as it hits. You rolled it, and you rolled 7, that's like a mixed, there's the word. That's a mixed success. So you're going to give a little, you're going to get a little. It's not going to work out perfect for you.
Right.
But this isn't like that because there are target number ranges and you will be rolling against your DM still. In a Powered by the Apocalypse system, you never roll against the DM. DM never rolls anything. But in this one, your GM might be.
Right.
So it is a
I believe the way he explained combat is that you roll your 2d6 for
yes.
attack, add your bonuses. The creature or person or monster that you're up against also rolls a 2d6 for their armor. And if in that roll they get higher, then you miss.
Yes.
So it gives a lot more of a, well, my AC is not always 16. Sometimes I don't do as well at protecting myself. Sometimes I don't move away as nimbly. And I think it's going to be difficult, but I think it's going to be really cool.
It adds a lot more variance to it, right? Now obviously you have stuff you can add to that and you can just be better at things, right? If you are just point blank period better at defense than most other people, then you're probably, you're adding a bigger number to your 2d6 rolls, so it's going to be hard for you to be beat, which
Right.
it just is what it is, right? You bought the skills, you bought the attributes to be that. Or
Right.
vice versa. You could have bought the attributes to be really good at hitting things. So you're going to probably win in that versus. But I think it definitely adds more of a competitive level to things than just static against or
A set DC.
a set DC, which I think is kind of interesting. It's kind of cool, really.
I agree.
Let's see what else we got here. So we talked about the attributes, we talked about the enhancements, and we talked about the limiters. These are all the things you need. This is all just building a character. And like I say, it could be daunting. It could be
And once you have that, you're not even done.
right. That's the beginning of building a character. All that stuff is still just the beginnings of building your character because there's more on top of that. And that even is affected by what you want to do, right? Like if you want to build like she did a companion, then you have to
I
build
have to
that.
give my attributes, my attribute points, to my companion. It's not just paying the attribute cost for the companion. I build a second character. And I have to split my points with the second character how I see fit. And they need to buy body, mind, and soul points. And they need to pick attributes that they can have, depending on how many points I allot to them.
Now, of course, uh, a a a thing that should be said is that they give you tons of options, but they also give you the option to come up with things that are custom for both the GM, who maybe he's like, I want my world to have this effect or this enhancement or this specific limiter. Um, so you can always throw in something else, or if there's something that you think you want, you could talk to your GM about it. So think about all of the customization that's already possible with all the options and the fact that you are super unlikely to ever make anything that's exactly like whoever else is at your table, and then add on to that your own imagination or your GM's imagination, and it's truly limitless, the possibilities. um but it gets even further than that because after you get past the limiters and after you get past
I have to rush to the restroom.
okay,
So I know where you're going to hit next. I'll be right back and ready.
okay,
I'm about to pee my pants and it just hit me like a wave.
do your thing.
Thank you.
So after you get past you think you picked your attributes, you've got good enhancements, you've got the limiters you can live with to help improve your to help make up for your enhancements or what have you. Then you get into defects. Now again, Excuse my squeaky chair. Now, again, something to note: what you're making here is an anime character. That's what it is. So, in that's what it's based on. So, if you think about making this character like it's an anime character, like it's an anime protagonist, then you will instantly understand the concept of defects. Now, I'm not going to get into them too deeply while she's gone, but to talk briefly about it, if you think to any anime with your favorite, any of your favorite animes with characters in them, even the ones that are OP have some defect. Maybe that's how dumb Goku is and innocent. Or maybe that's how people hate. Or maybe that's how people hate. I can't remember the name of the character I was thinking of originally. The guy from I can't even remember the anime. Well, now I just look dumb. Now I just look silly. Anyways, whether that's how he will refuses to use lethal tactics, how Rurouni Kenshin Imura refuses to use lethal tactics, or maybe it's how you've got a big price on your head, like Vash the Stampede from Trigun. A lot of these anime characters, these anime protagonists, they have some defect. Something that's not so advantageous. And I'm going to tell you how these can affect you right now. All right.
I've been invaded by small furry creatures. Well, one's a big furry creature.
Fair enough. So as I was saying, when you compare it to an anime, it's most of your favorite anime characters have some version of defect, something that makes their life a little bit more difficult, or their situations not always advantageous. Just like that, in this game, you get to put defects on your character. And maybe that's something like Hounded, where you're constantly uh, have to keep secrets, uh, and you find it difficult to keep secrets in your life
Because you're constantly
because
being followed around by people or paparazzi or you're famous, right?
right, because you're
Another
famous.
another one that the one that I'm using for my companion, you have no arms. It's a snake, but
A snake.
you have no arms.
Yeah.
So you can't.
Impaired manipulation. That one is.
Yes. Yes. Another fun one is significant other is what it's called. And depending on how many levels you put in significant other is how often your significant other might get put in danger.
Right, which easily could be considered a defect.
Yeah.
And they have there's all kinds, right? There's Achilles heel, which is like, your weakness, and you can decide how easy to exploit your weaknesses, and you'll get more points for it, because what happens is when you give a defect, it essentially gives you your points back that you already spent. So now I know what you're thinking. You mean I could get 70 points, and then if I just put some defects on, I could get 20 of those points back? Yes, you could. But these defects are not forgiving enough that you're going to want 20 points worth of defects.
Yes. Like having no arms. That's 9 points back, which is why I'm using it. It's great. It's a great concept. but I wouldn't do it on my main character.
No, absolutely. Uh, well, and things like fragile, where you just lose health points for 3 points, or cursed, or easily distracted. These aren't these most of these aren't great, and the ones that don't affect you that much
Don't refund that many points.
don't give you that many points. But what's fun about them is they allow you to make any version of flawed character in any way you want, right? And characters should have flaws. One of the things that I know Katie really loves in making her D&D characters is she loves to have a dump stat. She sometimes will roll too well and just drop one of her stats down.
I
Like,
have gifted hands when it comes to rolling. So sometimes I have to nerf myself.
she's not even necessarily nerfing herself. She just likes to have something she's bad at. You know, maybe she rolled nothing under a 13 and she's like, no, I want to be bad at this thing with this character. And she'll drop
It
it
makes
to an
for
8.
fun role play.
Absolutely. It adds something to it. And this helps add those things to your character here. And again, you want to talk about the things you can do. One of the defects is involuntary change. You know what that immediately reminds me of? Werewolf. You want to make a werewolf? Make a fucking
You
werewolf.
have a werewolf character. Easy. There's a template for it, even.
Exactly. How about this? Nemesis. That's a great defect. Just put in the game you have somebody that is trying to harm you at every given interval. That's
That's the max
hilarious.
one. That's the max of Nemesis. And I do think that will be the only defect I put on my character.
That's hilarious. It's hilarious. Oh, you know what the other one is that's hilarious here is magnet. As in chick or dude magnet. You can't help it. The people really they're just coming after you. The ladies, the fellas, or both.
And you can only use it on your character if your character would not like it and it would be debilitating to him in some or her in some way. And they're too polite to do anything about it.
Yeah. How great is that? How great is that? And like I said, there's all kinds of different things you could do. You could put phobia in there. You could put sensory impairment in there. There's all kinds of different uh you could put skeletons in the closet.
Where you have a big secret you're needing to hide.
Like it really doesn't it really doesn't stop. You could really just put all kinds of things in there. Now granted, again, you don't want to fill your character up with these cuz the ones that give you a lot hurt you a lot, you know. You want 9 points for nightmares. I don't think that you want to be physically impaired, severely physically impaired, and inconvenienced just to have 9 points.
Then you'll look like me with dark circles under your eyes all the time. Fully impaired by it. And I didn't even get any cool powers for it. So kind of bullshit.
You know, kind of bullshit. But anyways, I think that uh, it's a great way to help you get just that little extra bit if you wanted to be if you needed a little more. And it's recommended that each character have at least one defect. So do it. Pick one, two, three if you're crazy. Get some of them points back and have something to play with when you're making up this character. Because again, this character is so unique to you. And I think that's really cool.
I think Nemesis is what I'm going with because of my thoughts on it immediately made me think of Comey Can't Communicate. That one girl that's just in constant competition with her and she barely even notices. Take a low level of Nemesis and just
Oh yeah, that's great. Uh,
I
I
will be victorious. And you're like, who are you?
I will be victorious. Who are you again? Yeah, I honestly, for my character, I barely even looked through these. Like I've just started to try to pick out the defects. But I'm thinking about things like impaired speech. I think could be funny and fun. Um,
Yeah,
Nemesis is hilarious.
you should show it to us right now. Do your impaired speech.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What a wonderful audience.
You're a weirdo. I
Uh,
like it.
that's my Jimmy impression. What 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 a wonderful audience.
It was a pretty good one. I
Yeah.
knew what you were doing right off the bat.
Thank you. I flew in this weekend. Boy, I'm tired. But yes, uh, like I said, I think the defects are like just a little cherry on top of the whole thing. I think that without trying to just sound like I'm like out here being like, yeah, you should try this. I really think it's a very interesting system. I think it's got an interesting build to it. I think that you really should. I don't think it is very new player friendly,
No.
but I don't think that largely because it's just so freeform that it would be easy to just kind of not understand it, even if you had an experienced GM. Now, with that being said, if you had an experienced GM, obviously they're going to know how to help guide your new players through it. But I definitely
I think
say,
the only way it would be new user friendly, new player friendly, uh, would be to go with starting to try to make your own favorite anime character and not be afraid of the math because there will be math.
there will be a lot of math. Yeah, definitely. I think that like the pros, the major pros to this system so far as I've seen it, just with the character creation, because I haven't played that much of it. I haven't played any of it. But just with the character creation, the major pros are that like the customization is so in depth that it really helps you feel like you're making something that is yours. You know, you won't ever have that feeling of, oh, there's another totem barbarian who chose to, somebody who chose to just get the strongest version of the strongest thing. Like you won't come across that with this.
Bear totem. Everybody's a bear totem.
Yeah. Um,
I think even two people with the same concept could come away with two completely different characters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a major pro. And I think that if you want to talk about cons, I think the biggest con is that you really got to know your numbers. You really got to be ready to like slog through that, just the numbers of it in and of itself, and that it can be very daunting. It can be overwhelming. And like this is speaking from experience. When we first got it, it was like, hey, we were even given a direction, and we still all there's three of us who
Sat
didn't
around for 2 hours just trying to figure out something.
just something like
But then by hour 3,
we started
you
gaining
guys had
steam.
your ideas. And then by hour 4, I finally started to figure myself out.
We started gaining steam, and we started to go somewhere. So I think that it's part of me wants to say that inexperienced players would have too much on their plate, but part of me also wants to say if you're too experienced with your standard system, that makes it harder because you're
That's what
used to
I
it.
found, that it made it more difficult for me because I can create a character in my sleep in second, 3.5, or fifth.
Right.
I
Just
can do it in my sleep,
jam it
you
together,
know.
you're done. Yeah. It's
I
like
know
building
the
blocks.
options, I know all of it, right? Building this was so freeform, and it wasn't like, all right, pick a race. Now pick a woo. Sorry. Now pick a class.
Right.
Now pick this option that you might want, or this option. There
Right.
are only 4 options, but you pick one. And then the hardest thing has always been picking spells, I guess. But I know all the spells, so
Spells
I
and
don't have to
equipment,
go
right?
look at the list. Right? I just look at the list. I don't need to do any pull downs. I just know.
Right. Spells and equipment is the hardest part of building basically any starting like D20 system
Everybody gets a
character.
bonking stick in mine, so almost everybody I build gets a quarterstaff. We bonking.
We bonking. Um,
I
you
almost
know,
finished a whole campaign with my starter weapon the other day. Um,
um, but yeah, I mean, it's like, uh, I would definitely compare. I'd say your standard D20 system that most people are aware of, your D&Ds, your Pathfinders, so on and so forth. Um, those are like Legos. Like when you're building a character, you know how things fit together, and you know that they're supposed to go in this order. And then when you get into BESM, you were just playing with Legos, and they gave you a block of clay, and they said make something with that. And you're like, whoa, what?
yeah,
But I was making a Lego car. I know how to make a Lego car. Like it's it's very different. Um, but not different in a bad way. Really. Um, that's the way I feel. I don't know. What's your overall takeaway from the system so far? Let's get into that.
I think it's good.
I agree. I agree. Um, I think my overall takeaway is 100% that like it's gonna be interesting and it'll be fun and I can't wait to give it a shot and see what it's like. But I think that's a good place. I think that's a good place to wrap it up, to wrap it all up in a tight little bow. So I hope that after you've finished watching this, you too know a little bit about BESM and whether or not you want to try making a character and playing it at your tables, and if maybe you'll have fun doing it. So until then, I, as always, am Jeff, the Torchlit Twitch Master, the Twitchlit Torch Master, and joining me is,
Mommy mischief.
and we will see you next time on No Dice. Catch us here on Wacko Mundo next week, next Wednesday. Until then, tell good
Tell good
stories.
stories.